Getting a house cow is often one of the things that homesteaders really consider one of the most important parts of their homestead, and we had one lined up and unfortunately it has fallen through. We had gone and met Willow, and she was a lovely little Jersey cow. She is naturally polled. She was A2. She was about 5 years old, 6 years old. She'd had several calves before. She was a lovely quiet milker. She was still in milk. Unfortunately, she had lost her calf in December last year to an umbilical infection, but she was still in milk herself, and she was still putting out about 3 gallons or 12 litres a day. And for us, that sounded pretty much perfect. She was getting milked once a day. It was something that we could easily fit into our schedule. And when we got the lady's phone number, turns out we also knew her. She was a family friend. And on top of all of this, she was within our price range as well. So she seemed like the perfect unicorn for our house and for our family. We weren't quite ready for a house cow yet. It kind of got presented in our lap, but we thought it was too good to be true and that we would jump at the opportunity. So we spent the next few weeks building ourselves a cow shed, making ourselves a pen. There's a little sort of yard area in the front. We bought a milking unit, and then of course we had to save up and buy a generator that could run the milking unit. Bought all the buckets and all the bits and pieces that we needed, and invested quite heavily in getting this cow, and we've set up the electric fence. What we really wanted was our cow coming to our place to already be in calf, and because we knew this lady, her brother runs a dairy farm, so she borrowed a bull, and we were just waiting to see if she came back onto heat or whether or not she would actually be pregnant. And unfortunately, during this time, she sort of started going off her food a little bit, but the lady didn't think too much of it because it could have been just hormonal changes, and it might be because there's a bull there sharing the food. She had also changed the food. But she hadn't been eating as much as she would expect her to be eating in those sort of 2 weeks, and then unfortunately the scours started. She developed really severe, very watery diarrhea. As all really good animal owners will do, she rang the vet. The vet came out, gave the cow some antibiotics and a anti-inflammatory shot, and took some bloods and I think a stool sample as well. Anyway, did some tests, and over the next day or two she actually started to come right. Her poop sort of started to firm up. She started eating again, and she seemed to turn some kind of corner. So we thought that maybe it was just the transition to some new feed that had upset her gut bacteria and just set off a bunch of scours. In the meantime, the bull left, went home, so she was feeling a bit lonely as well. On the upside, she didn't come back into heat, and the vet was pretty sure she wasn't empty. So that was all looking really promising. She'd come right. The vet said probably it was just the change of feed that has thrown off her gut system, and seeing as she seemed to be coming right, it was probably fine, but we'll wait until we got the blood test to just double check that everything was all right. And unfortunately, the other day I just got the text message from the lady saying the bloods are back, and unfortunately she has got Yonies disease. So my initial thought was womp womp, and then I had a quick Google because I didn't know a great deal about Yonies disease, and of course it was written down and it is not spelt with a Y like I sort of suspected it would have been. It is spelt with a J, and it must be like a European name. So it's Johnes. So I thought it said John's disease, and it wasn't until I started looking it up on Google and I was like, hang on, that sounds like what I know of as Yonies disease, and then I found something that explained how you said it. Ta-da, all made sense. So it is Yonies disease, which unfortunately is a bacteria that they pick up when they're calves usually. It's transmitted from fecal to mouth. Calves will often pick it up when they're drinking early on, or it can come from contaminated colostrum, or it can just be from poop being already on the floor where the calves are then being kept. And of course, if you've got a sick cow in your herd, the first place you're going to put them is probably in your hospital pen, which is probably when you're going to put your calves later. And Yonies disease, it lays dormant in their gut, so they pick it up as calves, but they're not going to show any symptoms, usually until they're between 2 and 8 years old. She's a little bit on the older end of that, but she has obviously come up positive. Interestingly, they did test her a year ago and she was negative at the time. But here we are a year later and she's definitely got it. Yonies disease goes by a few different names. In New Zealand it's known as BJD, bovine Yonies disease, I presume. It's also known as MAD, which I'm not entirely sure what that stands for. I'll stick it up here somewhere for you. It goes by a few names anyway, and it's somewhat related. It's like a cousin to tuberculosis. and there's something else that's a cousin too. Anyway, and it's a bacteria. It gets into their gut lining when they eat it. It lies there dormant, just slowly replicating until the point where it gets there's enough of it there that it starts causing some symptoms. It causes quite a lot of swelling in the gut, and the gut basically stops absorbing nutrients, and the food just goes in one end straight back out the other. With that, it means the cows then start losing condition quite quickly, and unfortunately there is not a known treatment for it at the moment for cattle. So sadly for us, that means Willow will not be coming to our house. We are starting to look for another little unicorn to replace her. It's kind of devastating. We were really looking forward to it, and honestly we had got to the point where we were ready to pick her up the weekend after we got the blood tests back. Been really looking forward to it, and sadly she's not coming to us. So now comes the time to see if we can find something that is exactly what we want, or whether we come up with some kind of compromise in the meantime and keep an eye out for something that we really do want in the long term. We've got a friend that's a dairy farmer, so he's offered us a few options, whether we get one that's sort of a cull from the herd for that's already in milk but not pregnant, or we might be able to wait until October and see if something comes up then, which is when the late calvers will often calve. So we'll wait and see. I'm not 100% sure what we'll do just yet. We do have another couple of dairies that have the Jersey cows the same as what we really would like. So we're going to go and talk to them, and fingers crossed they'll have something that they need to move on. Ideally it won't be a new young thing. I'm hoping it'll be something with a wee bit of experience that knows what they're doing, because I've not done this before. I've done lots of goats. I've milked goats for, well, since I was a kid, really. Cows are similar, but significantly larger and have more teats and a lot more milk. So it'd be nice to have a cow that knows what they're doing. If you want to see what else we've been up to recently, check out this video here, and I will see you in the next one.